We all know that ROI is always on the positive side when it looks at fitness. If you look at quality adjusted life years, what we call as quality, ROI is 4600%, not 100%. So I think this is a very important thing. And with Vishal has addressed, which I think Tapan said he has only worn Boki band. I've tried many. I think I still like Boki band of others, but I still keep trying. But what it has done is nudged me. Based on my track, based on coaching, it has nudged me to increase my potential. So I think this is a big change happening. I mean, one of the other questions that I see, pharma, healthcare industry being, the number of patients on NCDs are way too high. They are not doing it. Actually do is secondary prevention. So your chronic disease patient is going to live longer, take more medicines as he lives. Probably pay more premiums to you, probably do more check. So in fact, you are going to have a longevity of the business, along the longevity of his life. So I think it conveys very much into everyone in healthcare to get into fitness. It's an extension of business, but it's the insurance for your business sustainability. We need to keep people fit, we need to keep people live long. And the other thing, see, Boki is a solution. This in itself can make a change, but will not be complete unless we have two things, how we call it, a solution-centric approach and a system-centric approach. What you see on this panel, I know who shaped this panel, but you need a solution, an ecosystem-centric approach, a system-driven. So you have insurance companies, you have pharma, you have diagnostics, you have point of care and finally you have So the entire ecosystem has to work together to make sure this solution actually succeeds in the objective of what we call the grouping of HDB. Now with this, I think we have an excellent panel.
Like Professor was mentioning that nobody wants to go for a preventive health checkup. So we allowed it free also. Probably 20-30% will actually go for preventive health checkup. So we thought, okay, if people start walking every day, that would be good, that may help. So we spoke to Vishal and we came with a scheme. I said if the colleagues work, in a year's time, we had 70% less sick leaves just by walking 7 hours a day. The point he was trying to say. So, I have a request to you. That is, it really does work by simple, small changes. I heard Mr. Mickey speak and Mr. Sadar Singh speak about what difference can it make to your body and to yourself. So, strong believer of that. Now, insurance, where does it come in and where do I say expectancy of life moves up is? When you have a good health cover, and if something does go wrong, you go to the best doctor and the best hospital. You can afford it. And that actually is the difference between saving your life and killing yourself. So if you look at the entire spectrum of solutions, one, the solutions to start with, you should not follow. And I'm happy if pharma companies, hospitals and insurance companies, because of this, go out of business. There's something that you'll be happy to go out of business with. But if the spectrum is complete, and somebody does fall ill, and he or she has good health cover, the chances of him surviving for the next battle is much higher. So it plays a very important constituent. On its own, and when he was mentioning about all the research, on its own, preventive health care or insurance will not trigger that kind of positive association, because you normally would go with a negative association, something is wrong, or nothing can be wrong with me. But when you put it and combine it with the holistic wellness and the vision that Vishal is seeing of the ultimate pinnacle of a human entity in terms of his happiness, his well-being, it fits in very beautifully. And the government is doing its bit. It's huge. I don't think of a scale that Ayushman Bharat has been launched and the way successfully it is running and the impact it is making. You still see it somewhere in the world. And the way Vishal is thinking of making Ayushman India the next top layer on that scale, I think we are in the right direction. As a professional, as a company, I support this fully, and we hope that the quotient was much, much higher. Today we have more money, the airports are full, the streets are jammed with cars, but our happiness quotient has come down. Just spend a couple of minutes thinking about it. Are we really heading in the right direction? And this is where we want to be. And that's why such initiatives to me are very close, and that's why I contribute and I participate wholeheartedly. The message is clear. Wealth without wellness has no relevance, and we saw that chart where wealth and wellness was put together. It has such a huge impact. Thank you.
Process millions of patients. Is about data. We call this a wellness and illness. It's interesting to know that the component of wellness consumers who come and see us to do the preventive test is not even in double digits. It's only 5.5 to 6%, whereas 94 to 95% of the patients are actually from the illness. Number two, if you look at the age perspective, the most of the patients who come to us are in the range of 40 to 60. That clearly shows that we are having an inertia. It's not that the information is not available. Information is available on Google, on search engines, on website. Everyone knows. Today, if we ask a question and say that, oh, who wants to be fit to do that, or are we moving in that direction or no? So, if you ask us from the industry perspective, we would want to see this ratio to be completely reversed. Tomorrow, what we want to see is that probably 90% of our consumers are coming for preventive. Why? Because they don't want to go something wrong with them. Whereas probably 8 or 10% of the consumers should be patients who really require, and that's something which is inevitable. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to see that change. We try to create a lot of interactive sessions with these consumers, patients. We do a lot of corporate awareness camps, and as you rightly mentioned, we do a lot of corporate camps, and they are spoiling that why wellness is important, why being physically fit is important, and what are its long-term side effects if you don't stay fit for a longer period of time. So I think that's very important aspect, and I think with all of us as a stakeholders, I think if each of us start taking some baby steps, I'm sure we would be able to see this change in the long term.
Once I go to a doctor and a doctor gives some of the medical jargons either in front of him or outside his chamber, I'm going to Google search what doctor is exactly saying and what he is saying is matching with my symptom or not. If he prescribes a diagnostic test, I will again go back to the Google and say which is the lab which is going to give me a cheap test and a better discount and a high quality lab. And I being myself as a patient on some of the occasions, I exactly have done that. There is no exaggeration that I am trying to do. And what happens once you prescribe something in a medicine? You are not going to go to a retail store. Again, you are going to go for a Google search. You are going to compare original versus generics. You are going to compare the price and the quality again of the drug that you has been prescribed. You go back, you start taking a medicine, and there are so many apps now which are available which are going to prompt you to take your medicine today. There are apps like Koki which will help you to go back to your doctor again because you might miss the visit that you were scheduled to have. There are apps like Koki which are now making the life. So what we really need is, and what I like about the whole concept is, can there be a single shop stop for a patient in one gadget or one device? To me, app is not something. There are apps and apps which are coming. The point is, can a doctor or a patient from the first symptom to the wellness? So a typical journey of a patient begins from a first symptom and actually goes back when the patient is discharged, and which is about a time when he is diagnosed, he is onto a pill, but the follow-up is required. And Professor Gupta mentioned about the non-communicable diseases. I think majority of the patients in our country, Professor Gupta, the statistics here are dying because of the non-communicable diseases, because of the complication. If you have a diabetes, if you have a hypertension or an MI, the first thing that you have is a denial. No, I cannot have it. That's the time when you require a highly emotional support. Coaches can provide that. It's difficult otherwise to get that. So these are some of the nuances which the digital technology is, and I am personally in favor of. Most of the pharmaceutical company, Professor Gupta, are now no more want to be called as a pill popping company, because their sustenance is not based now currently. If you are only going to provide a pill is one of the solutions that you can give to a patient who.
The Government of India's health budget outlay was roughly a little bit below 7,000 crores. Okay, which is 70,000 crores, which is roughly $10 billion. So United States, $200 billion cardiovascular disease. India's health budget is roughly 10 billion. Our population is 4 times that of the United States. Our propensity for heart disease is also much higher due to genetic reasons. So the point of the matter is that, and cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in India, both in men and in women, urban, rural, everywhere. So it's a misconception that it's a disease of the rich. It isn't. We underwent that epidemiological transition a long time ago where these non-communicable diseases kill many more people than the communicable. But the point I'm trying to make is that this disease cannot be fought in the secondary prevention space only. Therefore, companies like Goki, which are in the space of both primary and secondary prevention, I think end up being very vital in the whole ecosystem. The next step is actually effecting change. Change is very, very, very hard. It sounds simplistic, oh, why? Everybody, today with the information available, there isn't a single person, I would say, in the country or in the world who doesn't know that they should exercise more and eat better and not get stressed out. Everyone knows that. But to actually effect it is very hard. So technology has typically moved much faster than what healthcare has kept pace. So today, wearables, heart rate, ECG is quite ubiquitous. But let me tell you, these have been around for 20 years. When I initially came back from the US in the year 2000, that time also there were companies. There were a lot of Israeli companies in this space, and they came and showed us the trans-telephonic ECG model. But they weren't taken up. Today it's being taken up. And I think what a very smart move Goki has made is they've actually taken the technology. And I remember Vishal talking to me, was it in 2014? It's almost 6 years ago when they were kind of launching this. He became technology agnostic, which he said that whichever band you use, it doesn't matter. We got the back-end coach to make sense of the numbers. Because everybody likes to have a little toy on their wrist for a while. But beyond the point, it just become numbers and people stop wearing it, or then they stop looking at the numbers. So it's good for someone to make sense of those numbers. And that's where this whole coaching ecosystem comes in. The other important thing is also we use fitness and health synonymously. And while there is a huge overlap, it's not completely sort of the same thing. There are people who can be fit and are not completely healthy. So therefore, having basic regular checkups, like checking your sugar or checking your blood pressure or checking your cholesterol, is extremely vital. And if people who are fit tend to think that they have immunity, which is why every time somebody who's a regular runner or a regular cyclist, passes away, suddenly there's a huge sort of fright and a fear. How could that happen? While that person may be a regular runner or cyclist, they may still be smoking, for example, or they may have a high genetic predisposition towards cholesterol. So regular checkups is needed. So I think this marriage of technology and health is happening now. And I think as doctors, I'm sorry to say we've lagged behind in technology. We've, as a group, and obviously I'm not generalizing, have been fairly resistant to change. And with insurance coming in and pharma coming in and device players coming in, they're probably forcing us to change. Because there is technology out there, we just haven't harnessed the power. So every time a tech company comes to me and say, we've got this latest, greatest product, I tell them, think from the doctor's eye, how is he or she going to use that product to make the patient's life better? And I think we're undergoing that change now. So hopefully the doctors will come on board,